Hello and welcome to the KD Weight Loss Podcast. It has been absolutely time since I have done this, and I've been waiting to do it for a long time. But look, if you've been following my social media recently, you will have known I have quit my job in Tesco's. I no longer am a trolley boy, to much people's disappointment, and I'm now doing this full time, which gives me time to do this. And I'm actually really privileged to actually be able to find this because this is something I find is the easy way for me to communicate. I'm not a very good typewriter, anything like that, text-based, visual stuff. I can speak what I think, and I say it in such a way, and people just laugh when I speak sometimes. So I feel it's the best way I can do it. And I wanted to start off with a really, really simple question that I literally asked my clients. I said to them, like, what is bothering you? What are you thinking? Can you give me ideas? I know there's a handful of people that I have who have really good ideas. And I asked one of my clients, I'll probably refer to her as Mrs. I. If I get her name accidentally wrong at any point, I'll cut that because I'm so good at forgetting what I told myself at the beginning. But long story short, so she was actually sitting outside Tesco, as everyone does, and has a midlife existential crisis because clearly the Tesco car park on a rainy day is when we do our best thinking. It's usually when we escape the kids as well, if you like that. And she's given me permission to kind of talk about this a little bit because I feel like again she's a very relatable woman. She's going through probably what a lot of you who listen to this will probably experience as well. She was like, I'll read some of the quotes in a second, but she said the idea is why might protein feel like it's slowing my progress and what's actually happening in your body because as she put it, she feels this time is the slowest her weight loss has ever been. She's mid 40s, feels like this is the slowest her weight loss has ever been in all her life. She's never known anything different. The last time she did something, which was several years back, she lost 3 stone in 3 months, which is a respectable amount of weight loss. And she's probably in and around I think it's about 10 pounds in about 13 to 14 weeks mark, give or take a few weeks here and there. I'll talk to you a bit about her kind of position in a minute. This is kind of what she said in the voice note. So I've got some quotes here. So if I'm reading this, if you watch the video, you're reading this, you see me reading some notes here. So it's never taken me this long to lose a bit of weight. I feel like I lose weight faster when I eat less protein. I don't know if it's in my head. When I don't put pressure on myself, things seem to move better. Maybe eating the lighter bread, the lighter meals thing works better for me. And then this is the bit that makes me laugh, but it's every woman I speak to does this. They degrade or pressure themselves, put themselves down. This probably just makes no sense and I'm just being silly. That was one of the biggest things that stuck for me because these are genuine concerns and real questions she wants to know the answers to. But then it's always women always tend to finish this with a sentence of "Oh, but it doesn't matter. I'm just being silly," and it's so common because you're almost made to feel that way by fitness media. Fitness, you're not trying hard enough. We've all got the same 24 hours, which is fucking bollocks, by the way. So just clearly put, if you're new here, it's bollocks. And if you haven't felt like this year or a year before, you're doing really well. So this is for people who are feeling like they're just stuck, and no matter what they're trying, even when they're doing all the right things, it's not going the right way. This is where it's at. So to paint a picture a wee bit about her, Mrs. I, essentially, she's someone who's come from like a Slim World, Slim and Club background, okay? And the easiest way to put it is, so let's draw the picture of Slim World. And every woman I've worked with has been there. And I let them walk themselves through this. I ask questions to get them to find the answer themselves. But they tell me, oh, I used to do really well at Slim World. I'm like, okay, so you used to do really well at Slim World. So what happened? So they're like, I lost 3 stone. Fantastic. So it worked. Yeah, but then I put it back on again. Okay, what happened? I couldn't stick to it. Okay, why not? And then I keep asking why. And it comes down to these few things, and this is where Slimworld goes wrong, in my opinion. Simply put, they use the scales. Not because scales are bad to use, but they fucking use them dreadfully. Like, I'll paint this out. At 5 o'clock on a random Monday or Wednesday evening in your local church, you step on a scale in front of a group of people from this one person, and the scale goes up by a pound. And they have a quick question: what are you gonna do better next week? What kind of coaching is that? In front of a group with a shame-based model, because people feel shame because people are watching them and they haven't succeeded. When you're set up to fail from the get-go, okay? What will you do differently? Oh, I'll eat more light foods or free foods or whatever the fuck they're called nowadays. Not how did you feel this week? You've been struggling? No support, no care. Just fucking sort your numbers out, basically. No wonder that person feels like shit and wants to stop. Because that person before they went to that weigh-in didn't eat all day. Before that weigh-in went for a 5k walk because they wanted to make sure they could burn as many calories as they could before they got on the scale. Before they got in there, maybe had the worst news of all that week. But they got there and they were like, what are you going to do better? In other words, you've done shit, move on with it. Couple of things wrong with this model. The person on the other side of that chair has no fucking qualifications, bluntly put. You can't hand out nutrition advice when you don't know what you're talking about in the first place. If you don't understand basic physiology, you have no right doing it. I spent 3 years in uni doing an undergrad teaching me physiology. I have a right to talk about it. So that's one part of this. Number two, the model of weighing in the evening. I get clients to weigh first thing they wake up after they pee. The reason why, you've gone for a consistent period of fasting, the longest period without eating, therefore food is not going to affect the scales at that point in time, or as little as possible is it going to affect that, okay? That's part one. So the scales are going to be less affected early in the day. During the day, if you eat differently week to week, so if you don't have the exact same meals before, when you go to that weigh-in, even if you hadn't lost weight, you could still change your scales just because you've eaten different food. Because you might have had more fiber, more carbohydrates, more protein, more fat, anything. You might have more food in you. You might have less food in you. You might not have lost any weight, but you've got more or different food in you. So the model sets you up to fail because it's taking one data point at a random time of the day where it's not going to work very well. I get they're limited for what they can do, but that's that. The other issue with this model, I'm going on a bit of a rant here before I tie it back to it, is there is no mention of anything outside of food. No strength training, no cardio, no walking, no nothing. Just food. You're made to feel shit, you're not supported, and you're not given actual plan or advice to make it better. That is what she's come from, okay? The one thing it does though, because of the way they make you lose weight, they make you eat less carbohydrates typically, because most of the carbohydrates are sins, okay? Or high fat foods are sins. So foods that are highly calorific or easy to overeat are sins. So you're basically pressured into not eating them. Okay, so you choose not to eat them, you lose weight. If you eat less carbohydrates, you lose weight because you lose water weight. When you eat carbs again, you gain a lot of weight, not because you've gained fat, but because you're eating more carbohydrates. Carbohydrates hold a gram, I think it's like 3 grams of water per gram of carbohydrate. It's roughly around that. Okay, if you add that up, so if you ate 100 grams extra carbs that day, perfectly normal by the way, you'd add an extra 300 grams on your body weight. Just saying. I can't do the maths to pounds right now, but you'll get the point there. So there's that part of it. So they get you to lose weight quickly by that. You eat less carbohydrates, you eat less of these foods. And you don't really have a very fulfilling treat model. I remember, I think it was like a small Mars bar back in the day. I think it was like 15 sins. A small Mars bar was 17 sins. So it is literally conditioning you to believe that 15 is your maximum. That small bar, that's 90 calories, is over your daily limit. It punishes you for that. And I know every woman that's like, I've been over my sins today, they go, fuck it. Or I can't ever have anything I want because of my sins. It is so set up to make you fail and feel shit. It is unbelievable. And that is why you are feeling like anything you do the right way is not working because it is far slower. I'll say this over time and again, I can make weight loss happen really quick. I know how to do that. I came from a combat sports background. I know how to lose 3 to 5 kilos in a week by eating low fiber. Low fiber does not make it healthy or mean I look better or feel more toned or anything like that. No, I weigh less because I have less shit in my system, less water in my system, and less food in my body. That is it. If you want to only be measured by the weight on the scales, I can make that happen, but you won't be any better looking in the mirror. You won't feel better in your clothes. You'll feel probably worse because you have no energy. You're going to be weaker. You're going to suffer more from menopausal symptoms. It's going to suck. There's my rant over and we're only 9 minutes. So, what have we been doing with this client? Starting off with this client, like I said, we worked a long time ago. And again, she's lost about 10 pounds roughly in about the last 13 to 14 weeks. We have been doing 2 days at the gym. Nothing too crazy, both roughly 30 to 45 minute sessions, really simple strength training. She's not the biggest fan of the gym, but she's doing it because we're talking about the health benefits more than anything. Protein wise, she feels she's eating a high protein diet, and absolutely to her she would, because she's not prioritized protein like this before, and anyone who hasn't will feel like this is hard. So this is why anytime I coach anyone, I start with 80 grams. 80 grams is actually really easy to get people to do because they just need 20 to 30 grams to 3 to 4 times a day. That's quite simple with things like if you peel meals correctly. Once I get them there, I then push them to 100 because 100 is kind of the minimum I want people to be around. 1, because it's a nice number to remember, but 2, it's quite a comfortable target to show you that all your meals have good protein targets. Okay, so this is what I did with my client. Technically, a high protein diet on recommendation is 1.6 grams to 2.2 grams per kilo of your body weight. So in my example that I always use, so of an 80 kilo woman, that's 128 to 175 grams per person, or for that person, should I say, for that female. This client averages typically between 100 and 120 grams. So she's eating a higher protein diet and a higher protein diet relatively. And she feels like this is the reason the weight is slowing off. Because that's the only thing that's different in her opinion. Absolutely. It's not technically when we get into it in a minute, but is there any actual truth to protein being to blame for her in kind of having more weight on her? So let's just start there. So strength training hasn't been a big thing for her before, and neither is protein. Both of these things, these two things, are signaling to her body to hold on to muscle. So if you eat at maintenance 2,000 calories, and then you cut to your calorie deficit of 1,800, 1,600, whatever you're at, okay, your body is getting signals that it needs to lose something because it does not have the required funds to pay off the bill. Basically, it is in a debt. Okay, so you owe this much money, but you can only pay this much money. You have money elsewhere, so it's going to take something from you to make you pay off that debt. That's the analogy. In this example, what's happening is she is getting signals from her body by eating higher protein and strength training that she needs to maintain her muscle because her muscle is getting signals and being fed to be maintained, which is a positive thing because muscle is active. Fat is not, muscle is. When you have more muscle, you burn more calories. It is not masses of difference, but it is better than having less muscle. Not only that, when you have more muscle, right, loads of different things, specific to women as well here. When you have more muscle, you're going to have better bone density. That means when you fall, when you're older, you're not going to break your hip and then be immobile and then basically die sooner because women who break their hips earlier in their life are more likely to die sooner. That's actually a very sad fact, but it happens. Increasing your muscle mass improves your insulin sensitivity. If you're affected by things like PCOS, that is going to be one of the key things you need to fight because you have too high levels of insulin and you don't know how to use it. Your body cannot use it properly. Muscle strength training improves your insulin sensitivity, means you can process it better, less inflammation, less spiraling down that way. You're less puffy, less bloated. That's another angle of it. The other parts of strength training as well is it's going to bring your blood pressure down. It's going to bring your heart rate down. This is going to help with things like hot flushes as well. So not only are we looking more toned and looking better when we reduce our body fat, we look the shape we want. We have all these health benefits from strength training and protein. Okay, so is it slowing her fat? Is it slowing her weight on the scales? Actually, it's because we're holding on to more muscle. A couple of ways this can happen. So again, by maintaining more muscle. If before, when she was just eating less calories and not eating enough protein or strength training, the muscle would basically come off her body quite quickly and it would boost and it will give those big drops of 5-6 pounds potentially over multiple weeks. Okay, which is why people on things like Sim World who don't strength train or prioritize protein lose weight quickly. She is prioritizing keeping muscle through strength training and protein, so the weight loss is less. The big point here, weight loss does not equal fat loss. You can be losing body fat even when the weight on the scales does not go down because body fat is slow. It takes time. You've probably heard the 3,500 calorie rule. That is a pound of fat. That is a 500 calorie deficit for 7 days a week. That's quite aggressive. Most women won't do that. Most women will do a 250 calorie deficit. So it takes roughly 2 weeks to lose a pound of fat. People think it happens quicker. It does not. If your maintenance calories is 2,000, that means you need to be eating 1,500. If your maintenance calories is 1,800, you need to be eating 1,300 to lose a pound in a week. Do you see my point? So if we have a smaller deficit, which is more manageable and more achievable, you can maintain this for longer and lose the kind of fat in 2 weeks, but it's easier to do because you can eat more food, enjoy more treats, and not feel like as restricted. So the protein, the muscle, that's going to be masking our weight loss a wee bit. The other things that come into it, let's talk about period. So your period is going to be showing different weights as well. It's going to affect your weight. Do not compare every week the same. What a typical way I used to do it with women who are heavily affected by their periods, I've got a couple of clients like this, is your week 1 of your first month, compare with your week 1 of your second cycle. First 4 week cycle typically, again, depends on how long your cycle is for women, typically it's 28 days plus or minus 5 days, give or take. If you have a 28-day cycle, compare week 1's weight to week 1 on your next 28-day cycle, and week 1 on your third next cycle, because that's going to tell you more than just go week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Okay, compare week 1 and week 5. Compare week 5 and week 10. Yes, 10. You get my point. That's a really important thing because your period is going to mask it. When you strength train as well, you're going to have inflammation because you're going to create a little bit of damage to your muscles. When you create damage and you create inflammation, there's going to be fluid retained here. You can easily hold a couple of pounds just through that alone. So that will also mask the weight loss. So it's not uncommon. She mentioned in the voice note as well about how she's been super stressed recently. Her husband was away for work overnight. She's still got the kids to run to work with their schools, with their choices, their options even, and work was fucking doing her head in the other week. So not only that, stress is going to cause water retention as well. Increase of cortisol. Cortisol is perfectly fine and healthy. Absolutely perfectly fine and healthy. But long-term elevated levels of it will increase water retention, encourage fat storage. Of course, if you're in a deficit, that is kind of irrelevant because you will still end up losing body fat, but it can still cause you to hold more weight temporarily and again mask your long-term efforts. And for women, when you're getting pounded day in, day out, being thinking, fuck, I'm not doing well because your brain is kicking you down already, no wonder it's going to be hard to stick in it long enough without any support and you give up before you fucking see the payoff. The easiest way I can explain, basically, in a nutshell, why strength training and protein master your weight loss is kind of the idea of like losing muscle is like selling your furniture to lose weight before a house move. It's making it easier to move house. Yeah, that's true, but the van is lighter and now you have no furniture for your living room. You can't move, sit, enjoy yourself, relax, that sort of thing. There's no luxury or comfort. It's just a lighter shell. That is basically what's happening. So of course she can lose weight, but it won't benefit her. So I've gone through the basics on my notes here, based on what she said to me. So I've kind of talked about the idea of you lost weight fast because you got rid of muscle, and now she's reserving that. That's one key thing. She mentioned a lot basically about in the voice note as well about she mentioned how her protein bar, essentially she's having a whole chocolate bar every single day, and she used to have this instead of rice cake or the lighter bread and less bread. What that's describing, so that protein bar I know for her is 150 calories. I know it for a fact. It's 150 calories, 10 grams of protein. I know your nutrition diary. The rice cake, the lighter bread, and all that are lower calories. There is less calories total in that. You are going to lose weight if everything else remains the same, and that was the swap you made. All you did is made a swap that saved you 200 calories. But it's not, calories are the first order of importance. I've shown you my 3T triangle before. We've got total, type, and timing. Okay, total. What is the total calories first? That is the most essential thing for weight loss and fat loss. Okay. Once you've got that, you then need to hit protein totals. You then need to hit fiber totals because they're the next most important things that keep you full, maintain your muscle, make you the healthiest version of yourself. Basically, what she's doing there is having lower calories, but they're not empty calories. But a rice cake is just there's no nutritional value in it. At least in a protein bar, there is protein. Don't get me wrong. There's obviously better sources of protein than a protein bar. But if that's the choice she's making to have a protein bar in that moment, go for it. Absolutely fine. There's no issue with having that. And even if it was an actual chocolate bar, I had a client, and this proves this point over and over again. We made a deal that every single day he has a Yorkie because that keeps him on track. And he stayed on track for 3 months because he could have a Yorkie every single day. And he lost, how much did he lose in the end? I think he lost about 5 kilos doing that. So what's that, 12 pounds roughly? So he lost 12 pounds doing that. So my point is, it doesn't necessarily matter the quality at the start as long as the calorie totals are there. Once you've got the calorie totals there, we want better quality foods, whether it's more fruit and veg, higher protein, higher fiber. Rice cakes and lighter bread is just another way of achieving a calorie deficit. Again, if you want to eat less food and have lower calories, absolutely fine, go ahead. But if you want more complete nutrition, it's probably better to actually have the protein bar. The other thing she actually followed that up with, by the way, she said when she had the rice cake and all that, she did find herself more hungrier. So and this is where I'll tie this back to, short term, lower calories, short term, loses more weight quickly, short term, short term, short term. Long term, 2 weeks of feeling hungry, I would say fuck that. I couldn't do it. I bet she couldn't do it because at the end of the day, most people get pissed off with things not moving in the right direction or feeling shit after a couple of days. Feeling fuller, more content, weight loss being a little bit slower. You can stick to that for 3 to 6 to 12 months. I've had clients do that plenty of times. If you do something more short-term extreme, even not extreme, short-term more intense, lower calorie, leaves you a bit more hungry, you're probably sticking to that for a max of 4 weeks. Even 4 weeks is brutal. I don't know many people who can do 30-day periods of doing something without feeling shit. If you are that person, you're probably a bodybuilder and you just have a weird mind. And I don't train bodybuilders because I fucking hate it. I think bodybuilding is not the standard we should be living up to, so we need to fucking ditch that mentality altogether. Rant over again. So yeah, how long can you actually keep it up? That's the big thing. If I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks, fantastic. If I lost 20 pounds in 4 months, I'd be more impressed because I lost more weight sustainably, easy. I could go out for dinner. I could have my wine. This lady I know loves her Prosecco. She's had a more busy social schedule the last few weeks. She has been able to lose this weight whilst having a very busy social schedule since Easter. Yes, the weight has slowed slightly. Yes, there has been less inches off in that period of time. She has still lost 2 pounds and 2 inches in the last 4 to 5 weeks whilst having a pretty packed social schedule. If I told you you could do that and then it would speed up again once you got back on track a little bit more, or just kind of got back to more of a normal lifestyle, you'd probably take that in a heartbeat, wouldn't you? So you're probably, I say you're probably, that's a lie. You're not doing anything wrong. What you're doing is you're doing it better. It feels slower. But one of my favorite phrases is the slow way is the fast way because you do it once and that's it. The fast way is slower because the fast way is you do it quickly. 2 weeks, bang, I've lost 10 pounds. Then you go on holiday, you fuck it, you get all that weight back on and some, and then you have to do it fast again. And you get stuck in this cycle. And I know 9 out of 10 people listening to this podcast have been trying to lose the same 5 to 10 pounds for years. It is one of the most common things I get on the first call I have with women on my program, that they've been stuck and they just don't know what to do. They do know what to do. They just don't know how to stay in it long enough. They don't have the right person behind them to keep them on track. That's what I do in my coaching. It's actually not anything revolutionary with regards to nutritional training. Yes, I may push you a bit harder in training at times. Yes, I may challenge you nutritionally. But I challenge you to look at the big picture in everything you do. I said the same to this client. I'll say the same to anyone who's listening to this now. You can slash the calories if you want to. I will back you on that. I will make it the healthiest way possible we can do that. But I will tell you it is a short-term thing and we have to have a strategy for when we stop doing that. It's probably a very common thing I would say to anyone who's thinking of taking Ozempic or Manjaro or anything like that right now. Great, if you want to take that, be my guest. I'm not putting that shit in my body. But at the end of the day, if you take something like that, you need a plan for when you get out the other side. Otherwise, it's just going to be the exact same story, just a little bit quicker this time round. That rant wasn't enough. I wanted to kind of drop a teeny bit of science on you here because this really hammers home my point. So there's a really famous overfeeding study. Overfeeding basically means, so your calories maintenance is 2,000 if you overate, okay, by 500 calories a day, for example, right? They did this in the study, and they basically gave a low protein group and a high protein group. The low protein group was 15% of their calories was protein, which is about 300 calories based off a 2,000 calorie diet. The high protein group was 25% of the calories, which is about 500 calories of a 2,000 calorie diet. Okay, so in actual grams, that's 75 grams versus 125 grams. There's not actually that high in protein, but it's higher in protein. When eaten in excess of your protein, so if you're in the high protein group, actually let's do the other way around. When eating in the lower protein group, so 75 grams protein a day, but you're overeating your calories, you lost 1 kilo of muscle, so 2.2 pounds of muscle, even though you were overeating, and your body fat mass went up even more. When you were in the high protein group and you ate 125 grams of protein, you actually gained between 3 to 4 kilos of muscle for the same amount of weight gain. You gained the same amount of weight for the same amount for that extra 3 to 4 kilos of muscle. That muscle, that will serve you in terms of your health, hot flushes, in terms of your bone density, fall risk, in terms of making you feel confident in the mirror and in your clothes, feeling more toned, body confidence, all of that. Protein is different to every other food. Another bit of science for you. When we eat protein, when we eat any food, 10% of the calories that we ingest every single day, okay, is basically burnt off by digestion. Okay, so if you eat 2,000 calories a day, roughly 200 calories is burnt off by the thermic effect of food. That's what it's called. Protein has a higher calorie burn for the food. It's roughly 12 to 15%. It's not massive, but 220 calories to 250 calories burnt per day by just eating more protein instead of 200 calories. It's not massive, but again, the more protein you eat, it takes more energy to break down. It also keeps you fuller for longer. Stops those cravings. Cravings are half the issue that people go fuck it and binge. If you can curb the cravings and still give yourself a little bit of something you like each day, the Yorkie bar a day, bag of crisps you like each day, you're going to satisfy the psychological craving and the physical craving so much better. And then the last thing, just to really hammer home the point of training here, why it's so important to you. They've done this before with obese people, so people who are extremely overweight. If you have high cardiorespiratory fitness, you are cardiovascularly fit, you can basically do aerobic work on the bike, rower, skier, whatever you want. You're fit enough in that. You have a lower blood pressure and a lower resting heart rate. And it protects you from risk of heart disease, cancers, all those sorts of things, stroke. even though you are overweight. So even before you've shifted all the weight you need to protect your health, just being physically active in the gym is protecting you and saving your life. And again, I use the scales. It is part of my business to help provide one data point, but I pair that with photos, measurements of the body, how they feel day to day, their strength, other things outside of all of this, because we need every single angle possible to create the best picture. The weight will be useful sometimes. It won't be useful. The weight will be useful sometimes, not all the time. It's why I don't use it in isolation. So, sure, if you want to cut the calories, absolutely fine, be my guest. But at the same time, if you want to be fucking miserable, again, be my guest. I'm not going about that way. Again, I've mentioned that I'm happy to bring people's calories down. If they want a bit of a tighten up for holidays, that's absolutely fine. But what's the plan after the 2 to 4 week, cut? You have no plan at the end of it. You're just setting yourself up to fucking fail, and I don't agree with that at all. If it feels slow now, I get it. It's shit. It sucks. You just feel like you want to give up, but that's why you need the right people in your corner, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's a coach. It does not matter. You need to have that support because, again, as I've said time and time again, every 3 to 5 weeks you're going to want to quit. And if you do quit like you have done before, you'll be here in another 6 months and you'll be feeling exactly the same as you do now. But if you have someone like myself who actually sees that happening and then helps you go through the process of dealing with that, because when it sucks, you need to feel every single part of that. You're pissed off, you're putting in the work, you're doing all the right things, you're angry, you're fucked off, you're frustrated. Why won't it move quicker? You need to feel that. But once you felt that, you then need to steer it in the right direction. How do you actually take this anger and take this frustration and then think, what are the facts here? What do I actually know? What shows I'm going in the right direction? What things am I doing every day showing up despite the scales not moving? That it will pay off eventually, just not right now. Going back to that 3,500 calorie idea, it can take easily 2 weeks to shift that 1 pound. We're conditioned to believe it happens far quicker. When you do it properly, it really doesn't. So if you're going to take anything away from this right now, the one thing I like to think of is, can you do this when it's hectic? What you're doing right now, can you do this when your life is hectic? If the answer is no, I'll be seeing you in a few months' time. If the answer is yes, good. How can you stay in it for longer? Because again, I'll say that example again. I'd rather lose 20 pounds in 4 months versus 15 in 2 weeks, because I would have lost more in 4 months and I would have been able to enjoy myself more whilst doing it and felt much less of a skeleton of myself or a shell of myself. So if you are tracking weight, again, I do use it in my business. It is important. It's only one data point though. Focus on the trends. Every day it's going to change. Understand why it changes. Water, poop, food, muscle, inflammation, training, period, all these things. If you focus on those trends over a long period of time, you will see that true picture. Don't underestimate the role of stress, sleep, and your mindset. Stress, again, I mentioned cortisol can easily increase your weight when you're in a higher stress period. Sleep only does that as well, increases your stress response. I saw a meme last night. Literally, it's like I'm sitting there with a big screen up to my face for an hour before bed, laughing and really stimulated, and then I wonder why I can't fall asleep. It's like it's Batman going, interesting. It's typical though. Like we like why can't I do this? And then ironically, we're doing everything but the thing we need to do to fall asleep. So there we go. And look, I've touched upon it on the mindset. Mindset is more than just like a buzzword that everyone uses at the moment. It's actually how you approach things day to day. Discomfort does not mean it is wrong. Discomfort means you're actually challenging something normally that you believe. People seek to be in comfort. So when you're experiencing discomfort, you're actually probably doing something that's pushing you in the right direction because it's out of the normal for you. So don't be so quick to get out of that discomfort. Again, protein, yeah, sure, it probably slows your weight loss down, but I'd argue that it's slowing your weight loss down is probably the better thing it's doing than anything else. If you want to speed up your weight loss, be my guest. We can do it. I agree on doing it a certain way, but let's actually have a plan there. And essentially, if you're feeling like this is you, just remember there are so many women out there who follow me, follow other people that feel this exact same way. You're not on your own in that regard. I've got lots of questions from my clients asking, like I ask the ideas around topic ideas, and it comes from a better place because the people I train will probably relate more to you than I will ever come up with the questions, which is why I asked them. And this is where this podcast was born from. So if you're someone who thought this was actually sort of useful or anything like that, all I'd ask you is if you drop a comment below with an idea or a question or a thought that I could potentially chain into another podcast episode, because it comes so much better if I answer what you ask versus me just searching around the topic ideas. But again, hopefully this has been somewhat useful to you. and kind of makes you get an insight of what I believe in. Again, if you don't agree with me, you can tell me to go fuck myself. I'm not really going to be offended by that. But at the same time, I stand by what I stand by. I've been here long enough. I've got the education. I've got the experience. Probably more than most people on the internet actually do. So I'm not going to swing my dick around more than that. But I'm just going to leave you with that little note there. So if you're struggling, don't be afraid to reach out for help. There's still help you can do that's outside of paid stuff. Most people don't realise that. The amount of times I give people like a 1-day food summary, it's really easy. Doesn't take much of my time. It gets you in the right direction. If you need something like that, you know where to find me. But I'll speak to you soon.